MC. Story time with Ronnie. Hey guys, how's it going? Alright, what are we doing? Journey to the Center of the Earth, Part 17. And the drive, well, we starting out just around Forest Lakes, Arizona there. I just saw the Canyon Point campground there on the left. And this, how far are we gonna go? Well, that's a good question, because this video I kind of forgot to turn the camera off, so it's like 3 hours long, so I don't think we're gonna quite be able to fill that space. So we're gonna go as far as we can, and we'll have to slice it on up. Alright, so when we left this thing off, Harry was sure that they were going uphill, and the professor's like, nah, there's no way we're going uphill. What are you talking about? And Harry's like, oh, my legs are tired. I mean, we've been going uphill. And my uncle shook his head with the air of a man who does not want to be convinced. I tried to continue the conversation. He would not answer me, but once more gave the signal for departure. His silence, I thought, was only caused by concentrated ill temper. This drive here, so we're on Arizona 260 and we're heading towards Pace, and we get caught up in construction for a little bit, and so that's exciting. But yeah, we go down the rim, and oh boy, yeah, the whole way. It's gonna be fantastic. It's gonna be fantastic. Concentrated ill temper. However, this might be. I once more took up my load. Let me try that again. That didn't come out nearly right. Let's try that again. However this might be, I once more took up my load, and boldly and resolutely followed Hans, who was now in advance of my uncle. I did not like to be beaten, or even distanced. I was naturally anxious not to lose sight of my companions. The very idea of being left behind, lost in that terrible labyrinth, made me shiver, as with the ague, whatever that is. Besides, if the ascending path was more arduous and painful to clamber, I had once source of secret consolation and delight. It was to all appearance taking us back to the surface of the earth. That of itself was hopeful. Every step I took confirmed me in my belief, and I began already to build castles in the air in relation to my marriage with my pretty little cousin. About 12 o'clock, there was a great and sudden change in the aspect of the rocky sides of the gallery. I first noticed it from the diminution of the rays of light which cast back the reflection of the lamp. From being coated with shining and resplendent lava, it became living rock. The sides were sloping walls which sometimes became quite vertical. We were now in what the geological professors call a state of transition, in the period of cerulean stones. What am I doing? Some Star Trek here? Is that where Star Trek and all you got Cyrillians and Cylons and Klingons? Yeah, this looks like a Cyrillian Klingon stone. So called because this specimen of early formation is very common in England, in the countries formerly inhabited by the Celtic nation known as Silurs. Oh boy, I did not know that. Did you all know that? I didn't know that. Alright. Is that the guys with the silly walk? Is that? Oh no, that doesn't sound right either. I can see clearly now, I cried. The sentiment. Oh boy, I am tearing this up today. Let me just take a look at this drive. Maybe that'll help. All right, so we cleared the construction and we boogie and all, and there's the road down to Young, Arizona. And if you've never gone down to Young, Arizona, don't. Okay? It's a nice, peaceful little place, and don't go in there and looking for Starbucks. They ain't got none. I'm just joking. It's a beautiful little town, and they'd be more than happy to see you come there and throw down $1 or $2. All right. Here we... Oh, I lost my spot. Oh, tell you what, I can see clearly now. Oh, here we go. Boy, that was a... Wow. That was a stroke of luck there. It's going to be a good night. I can see clearly now, I cried. The sediment from the waters, which once covered the whole of the earth, formed during the second period of its existence. These schists and the calcareous, no, that ain't right, calcareous, we'll go with that, calcareous rocks. We are turning our backs on the gigantic rocks and are like people from Hamburg. We are like people from Hamburg, which would go to Lübeck by way of Hanover. I might just as well have kept my observations to myself. My geological enthusiasm got the better, however, of my cooler judgment. The professor, Hardwig, heard my observation. "What is the matter now?" he said in a tone of great gravity. "Well," cried I, "do you not see the different layers of calcareous rocks, and the first indication of slate strata?" "Well, what then?" We have, at that period of the world's existence, when the first plants and the first animals made their appearance." "You think so?" "Yes, look. Examine and judge for yourself." I induced the professor, with some difficulty, to cast the light of his lamp on the sides of the long, winding gallery. I expected some exclamation to burst from his lips. I was very much mistaken. The worthy professor never spoke a word. It was impossible to say whether he understood me or not. Perhaps it was that in his pride, my uncle and a learned professor, he did not like to own that he was wrong in having chosen the Eastern Tunnel. Or was he determined at any price to go to the end of it? It was quite evident we had left the region of lava, and that the road by which we were going could not take us back to the great crater of Mount Sneffels. As we went along, I could not help but ruminating on the whole question, and asked myself if I did not lay too great a stress on these sudden and peculiar modifications of the Earth's crust. All right, let's take another peek. Oh, the rim. We just starting the top of our descent into, well, I guess, you know, basically from here all the way to Mesa, it's downhill. There's a couple of little ups that'll make you climb a little bit, but basically we're sitting at about probably 7,000 feet, and yep, we're just gonna coast it all the way down. And this, oh yeah, that road, oh, all right, a lot of traffic on that road. Hard to get it worked on. There's only so much time in the summertime, and you know, everybody uses it because it's the high country, so they don't get a whole lot of chance to work on it, and it starts to look like that. All right, let's get back to it. Absolutely necessary. Oh boy, indubitable evidence. Oh, I think I maybe No, no, no. Do not lay. Oh, there we go. We're going to make it. Due greater stress on the sudden and peculiar modifications of the Earth's crust. After all, I was very likely to be mistaken, and it was within the range of probability and possibility that we were not making our way through the strata of rocks which I believed I recognized piled on the lower layer of granite formation. At all events, if I'm right, I thought to myself, I must certainly find some remains of primitive plants, and it will be absolutely necessary to give way to such indubitable evidence. Let us have a good search. I accordingly lost no opportunity of searching, and had gone more than about 100 yards when the evidence I sought were cropping up in the most incontestable manner before my eyes. It was quite natural that I should expect to find these signs, for during the Silurian period, the seas contained no fewer than 1,500 different animals and vegetable species. My feet, so long accustomed to the hard and arid lava soil, suddenly found themselves treading on a kind of soft dust, the remains of plants and shells. Upon the walls themselves, I could clearly make out the outline, as plain as a sun picture, of the focus. Okay, whoa, hang on. I could clearly make out the outline, as plain as a sun picture, of the fucus, and the lysopods. Fuckus? Well, fuckus then, and we'll just go with these lysopods. The worthy and excellent Professor Hardwick could not, of course, make any mistake about the matter, but I believe he deliberately closed his eyes and continued on his way with a firm and unalterable step. I began to think he was carrying his obstinacy a great deal too far. I could no longer act with prudence or composure. I stooped on a sudden and picked up an almost perfect shell, which had undoubtedly belonged to some animal very much resembling some of the present day. Having secured the prize, I followed in the wake of my uncle. "Do you see this?" I said. "Well," said the professor, with the most imperturbable tranquility, "it is the shell of a crustaceous animal in the extinct order of the trilobites. Trilobites. Nothing more, I assure you." "But," cried I, much troubled at his coolness, "do you draw no conclusion from it?" "Well, if I may ask, what conclusion do you draw from it yourself?" "Well," I thought, "I know, my boy, what you would say, and you are right, perfectly and incontestably right. We have finally abandoned the crust of lava and the road by which the lava ascended. It is quite possible that I may have been mistaken, but I shall be unable to discover my error until I get to the end of this gallery." "You are quite right, as far as that is concerned," I replied, "and I should highly approve of your decision, if we had not to fear the greatest of all dangers." "And what is that?" "Want of water." "Ha! Well, my dear Harry, it can't be helped. We must put ourselves on rations." And on he went. Ooh, that's the end of chapter 16. All right. Let's just dig into this chapter 17 a little bit. Deeper and deeper the coal mine. In truth, we were compelled to put ourselves upon rations. Our supply would certainly last not more than 3 days. I found this out about supper time. worst part of the matter was that in what is called the transition rocks, it was hardly to be expected we should meet with water. I had read of the horrors of thirst, and I knew that where we were, a brief trial of its sufferings would put an end to our adventures and our lives. But it was utterly useless to discuss the matter with my uncle. He would have answered by some axiom from Plato. I was going to say Pluto. Pluto the dog. During the whole of the next day, we proceeded on our journey through this interminable gallery. Arch after arch, tunnel after tunnel. We journeyed without exchanging a word. We had become as mute and reticent as Hans, our guide. Looks like we're in the construction again. Yeah, it's just too bad they just don't build a better road. But I guess, you know, these things take time and a lot of money and all of that. The road had no longer an upward tendency. At all events, if it had, it was not to be made out very clearly. Sometimes there could be no doubt that we were going downwards, but this inclination was scarcely to be distinguished, and it was by no means reassuring to the professor, because the character of the strata was in no wise modified, and the transition character of the rocks became more and more marked. It was a glorious sight to see how the electric light brought out the sparkles in the walls of the calcareous rocks and the old red sandstone. One might have fancied oneself in one of those deep cuttings in Devonshire, which have given their name to this kind of soil. Alright, hang on a second now. Let's take a look at this. Oh, this most just terrible road. And you can hear, you know, literally everything inside there just shakes and pops. And it's all plastic and more plastic and a little bit of plastic to join them together. And then they use the screws they use, I think, are made of plastic or maybe a soft cheese. No, that's not true. They're made out of hard cheese. Okay. Off we go. Oh, I lost my spot. I was so confident I could find it. Ha ha ha. Oh, reptile, bright as shades. Oh boy. Some say, oh, we just turned the page. That was the problem. Okay, let me go back and we'll have a sentence back there. Now, don't forget. Now, this video is like 3 hours long. So, if I'm dilly-dallying, it's because I think I got some time. All right. One might have fancied oneself in one of those deep cuttings in Devonshire, which have given their name to this kind of soil. Some magnificent specimens of marble projected from the sides of the gallery, some of an agate gray with white veins of variegated character, others of a yellow spotted color with red veins. Further off might be seen samples of color in which cherry-tinted seams were to be found in all their brightest shades. The greater number of these marbles were stamped with marks of primitive animals. Since the previous evening, nature and creation had made considerable progress. Instead of the rudimentary trilobites, I perceived the remains of a more perfect order. Among others, the fish, in which the eye of the geologist has been able to discover the first form of the reptile. The Devonian seas were inhabited by a vast number of animals of this species, which were deposited in tens of thousands in the rocks of new formation. It was quite evident to me that we were ascending the scale of animal life, in which man forms the summit. My excellent uncle, the professor, appeared not to take notice of these warnings. He was determined, at any risk, to proceed. All right, what do you say we call it? What do you say we call it a day right there? We're in a good spot. And I marked it, so we got a good chance of finding it. And look at all that construction. Oh my word. All right, let's just call it right there. And thanks so much for coming. And we'll catch you next time, and you make sure you watch where we leave off now, because we're going to pick it up right there. I'm just going to slice it. That's it. All right, Rosie, let's leave it. Let's do the thing here now. Sam C. And there's big old Rosie. There you go, guys.